So with that being said, Vita and Greg can't be here this evening, so y'all are going to be stuck with me tonight. Okay? Woo woo. Okay. My name's Ed. If you didn't know me, I'm one of the elders here at the church. One of the things I thought about, Eric, is that I think we can also do Meet the Elder Tuesday night as well. So I'm going to see about getting all the elders that are here at the church, and there's quite a few, that they would all individually come up and tell us about themselves and why they want to be an elder and why they think it's a good idea that they give back to the church. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Cindy and I have been married over 50 years. Okay, over 50. See, I'm saying over 50 years. I was a child, and Cindy was a grown woman at the time, and I will tell you that I was 19 when I got married, and she was 20, and I was in the Navy, and I came home for leave, and I went to an ice skating rink. Okay, down in Columbus, me and a buddy of mine, and they had what they called the snowball dance. And what that was is they had the two guys, my buddy and myself, start out, and all the girls were on one side and all the guys on the other side, and they blew a whistle, and we were supposed to go over and pick out a girl to skate with, and then when the whistle blew again, you would drop that girl, and she would go and get two guys, and likewise. So I saw all these girls that were huddled over in one corner there, and there was this one girl. She was grabbing a hold of the side rail tight, bare-knuckled type, really tight. And I said, that girl's going to have to hold on to me like that. So what I did is I picked her, and it happened to be Cindy, and then we dated. When they blew the whistle, I never left. We just kept on skating the whole time, Then I asked her out on a date, and she said yes, and she was living at the Y down in Columbus. And so I would go down to Columbus, and she didn't know really how tall I was, because the only time she really saw me was in skates. Okay, so I went to go pick her up. And when I went to go pick her up, she sent one of her girlfriends downstairs. She was upstairs, sent her downstairs, and the girl went like this. I didn't know what she was doing. She went. So apparently I was tall enough to go out with her. So after we went out, we dated for a little while, and what was it, a week later I said that I was going to marry you in 1 week. 3 dates. Okay, I said I was gonna marry her, and she said, "Yeah, right." And yeah, that's nice. And so I went back overseas, and my mom and dad hated it because I was calling and reversing the charges from Midway Island out in the Pacific, and the phone bill back in the 70s was like $400, $500 a month that they were paying for me to be able to talk. And then I came home on leave. After about 6 months, I came home on leave, and when we came home on leave, we went to her brother's wedding 1 week, and then I said, well, let's get married next week. Or no, I said, do you want to get married? She said, sure. No, we got engaged first. Okay, that weekend. When I gave her the ring, some of you know me, some of you don't. I was going like this for the ring, and I gave her the ring, and we got married the next week. Okay, my mom was a go-getter. We had a church wedding. My cousin was a pastor down near Carroll, Ohio. We went down to Carroll, Ohio. We didn't have a wedding dress. She got to go in my cousin's wedding dress. So we had a wedding dress, and the only friends I had was my buddy and a bunch of CB radio guys, and my best friend was a guy that I grew up with. So we got married, and then a short period later, we ended up going on to Midway Island together and spent 2.5 years on the island, and every 3 months we had what they call rest and relaxation because it's isolated duty, and we would go to Hawaii every 3 months. So that was just a tough life, okay? We were definitely blessed. Yeah, definitely blessed during that whole time. Um, I'm going to skip way ahead because I don't want to. I could take up the whole night and some of the things that the Lord has really done in my life. I will tell you, grew up in a family that my mom was into the occult. She was a magician's assistant and dealt with black magic and all of that kind of stuff. My dad was a alcoholic. He would on his way home, he was a superintendent of an auto parts plant, and on the way home every night he would buy a quart of beer, and then along with the quart of beer, he would buy a 12 pack, or back in those days, two 6 packs. Okay, so he would drink the quart and got home, then he would drink the two 6 packs, then he would go back out afterwards and buy 6 more and drink. That was a nightly thing. Hello, Brenda. Yeah. Hey. So with that being said, I grew around that, and later on in my life, after we were married and went to Midway Island, we came back. Uh, my mom and dad told me that they found Jesus, and that's a whole different story, and they wanted me to know Jesus. And so here was a party people, and they taught me how to party, and I partied in the Navy, and I did all of those things. And every time they would call me on the phone or talk to me, they said, "You need to know Jesus." And I finally said one time, "Listen, if you talk to me about Jesus one more time, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. We're going to be done." That was an Easter Sunday. And we came down to go to church on Easter Sunday with them, me with a camera, because my dad was going to sing in the choir, and my dad can't sing. Okay? So I was taking pictures of my dad up there, and this was after we had the argument about don't talk to me anymore. We came home that day, and my mom says, "Do you want to know Jesus?" And I said, "Yes." So my mom and dad led me to the Lord. It wasn't long after that, baptized in the Holy Spirit, and I've been serving God ever since. But this is where it gets the but. Okay, so serving God ever since, but I was still drinking with the buddies. I was still bowling all the time. I was still out. I was out selling, and I was a vice president of sales, and then I had my own companies. And the things that got into my mind is if we were having a problem within the company, all I had to do was go out and sell. So I would go out and sell, and things would be better. Then I would go out and sell some more. Things would be better financially. I was making good money back in those days, but I wasn't serving the Lord. So sometimes what the Lord does in those instances, he's going to get your attention. So the first thing that happened is financially, I wasn't able to sell anymore. I wasn't selling enough to make the bills and the payments and things like that. And that was a couple years before the other thing happened. So, I kept on thinking in my mind, well, I'll just go ahead and sell something, but it would never materialize. I wasn't catching up. In fact, I was losing ground, so much so that we had to claim bankruptcy and lose my house and lose everything that I had. But I still had this mentality, I can make it right. I can come back. I can do this. Okay, so God still needed to get my attention. So how he got my attention was in 2015, as I was going through this after bankruptcy, after all of those things. I got a lump on my neck, and they told me it was a disease that the doctor said it was going to be like all I had to do was take steroids and it would go away, and then I had no problems after that. And I read up on it, and I said, give me the steroids, because if the steroids are taken away and it doesn't come back, then I'm good. But if it does come back, it's cancer. So Cruz was with us at that time. But so I took it, and about a week later, it came back. So I ended up going to the VA, and we went to the VA, and they did a PET scan, and they saw what it was, and I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and they brought us in and said, "I'm sorry, sir, but you have stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma." I had every lymph node from my neck down to my groin. I had 3 large masses, one on my spine, one on my sternum, one on my clavicle, and they said, "There's really nothing that we can do. We're going to give you double chemo." And they brought Cindy in with me, and they said, "We're going to give you double chemo because we're going to slow it enough down so you can get your affairs in order, because you got about 8 months." Okay? So at that point, that's when God really got my attention. Okay? And it brought me to the book of Acts. And in the book of Acts, it talks about that there's really no miracles that are done without you doing something about it yourself. Okay? So as little as pray on me or pray with me or whatever to be able to do that. So I did, but when you hear that imminent death that you're going to get, I lost, I was depressed, all hope was gone. I believed in God. I was stepping away from the church, and then I ended up going, and you never know when you're going to hear God's word from, and whoever it's going to come from. So being at the VA, I went to a psychologist there because I was so depressed. Things that go through your mind is, I need to take my own life so my family doesn't have to deal with all the sickness that I have. I want to run away. I want to go to Florida. I just want to go and be somewhere and go somewhere and die. Okay, so this Indian psychologist said to me, "Ed, are you a Christian?" I said, well, yeah. He said, "Did the apostles die?" And I said, well, yeah, they died. And this comes from an Indian psychologist. Says, "Well, did Jesus die?" And I said, well, yeah, but he came back. He said, "Can we both agree on one thing, that God only knows when you're going to go?" I said, well, yeah. Matter of fact, you can go out in a car and you can leave my office and you go out and get hit by a car immediately and you can go. I said, yeah. He said, "As a Christian, you have a choice to make." I said, "What? A choice?" He said, "Yeah, you can crawl in the corner and say, 'Woe is me,' and die, or you can be a positive influence to the people that are around you, because it's not about you." He said, "You know where you're going to go." Now, he's an Indian, but he says, "You're going to go. You know where you're going to go." So it was at that point, I was doing sound at Mansfield First for years and years. I stepped down from the sound booth, and I ended up picking up a mic, and I ended up singing worship during that time with Melissa Jones over the church as a background singer. And I was dealing with the chemo, but Melissa helped me there by helping me change my diet. Okay, I got off of sugar, I got off of dairy, I got off of wheat before my first chemo treatment. Come to find out that in chemo, the catalyst that makes you sick is sugar, wheat, and dairy. So I got off of those. I had chemo one day, stay overnight, and have chemo injected in my spine because they said it's prevention for bone cancer if it gets into your bones. At that point, I got sick one time on chemo, and the reason I got sick on chemo was they took too much bone liquid out of my bones and didn't put enough chemo into, so I got dizzy, and I got sick one time. Other than that, I never got sick again on chemo, even getting double chemo treatments. At that point, too, I picked up the mic and I started singing in church, and I was dealing with my hair falling out. I had no hair, and it was all gone, And I thought, well, I need to put on a hat, things like that. And then the first time I got up with the mic to be able to do that, God kind of convicted me of that. He says, it's not about you. It's about the people that are sitting in the pews. They're hurting way more than what you are. You are not sick. You're worshiping God. You're setting an example, and your example needs to continue. And how do you need to continue that is to go ahead and sing up there. So in the 8 months that I had during that time to live, at the end of that 8 months, Cindy and I went back to up to Cleveland, got another PET scan to see what condition I was in. And they said, well, sir, we can't tell you that you're in remission. We can't tell you you're cured, but there is no evidence of cancer in your body. No. So it had completely gone away. They tell me all the time that, when it comes back, it's going to come back with a vengeance, and it's going to do this, and it's going to do this. But I know our God is more powerful and he is the ultimate healer, and he can heal people. He does it today. He did it to me several times over that I've been going through. Now, what's interesting part of this too is once I gave God all the glory for what he's done. I've been on television. I talked about this before, and in the chemo treatments and things like that. I was making good money back in the contracting days, decent money, okay? But the money that we were spending, was thousands of dollars that we needed to have on every month just to make the bills, meet our bills. Today, I serve the Lord. I try to do the best that I can. I take every opportunity when somebody wants to talk to me about Jesus, I talk to them about Jesus. I've changed people's attitudes, or God has changed people's attitudes through me by people watch their language around me. They make sure that they're doing the right thing. They apologize if they curse in front of me. They don't drink around me, although drinking's not bad. You can drink. But the thing about it is I want my legacy to be a man of God, not a sound man that happens to sing, that does show promotions and things like that. I want people to know, and that's what I tell my grandkids, that I want them to know that God is first. Okay, he brought me in this position. The added blessing that he has, Cindy and I are just on Social Security nowadays, but we have more spending money to be able to go out to dinner, things like that, than we ever had when I was making all sorts of money. Okay, we're happy. We have kids that we're very proud of, and grandkids that we're very proud of. All my kids, our children know the Lord. Okay, and my grandson is coming around, and he loves to go to church, and he loves this church. Okay. So if you don't have a church to go to, and I know most of you do, if you don't have a church to go to, you can come here. If not, find a church that teaches Jesus' word. Okay, and the idea for the pastors, in my opinion, are great salespeople, but their whole goal, or should be, is that they teach you enough that you want to go home and make sure he's teaching you the right thing for you to open your own Bible and say, what they told me or she told me this week is legit. This is really what God's word's all about. We don't want false prophets. We don't want to do that. But if the only thing that you're getting is on Sunday morning, okay, it's not enough. In this day and age, we need more and more. So that's a very short going of what I had to say, and I just want to thank you all for listening to me just rant on here a little bit and tell you just a little bit about my story. So thank you so much.